All right. So, I'm not very good at recording myself while I VOD review. I'm trying to practice it, so this is a little scuffed. I am sorry. And I also hope that my keyboard is not too clicky and being really annoying. But here we go. I'm gonna go over the foreign maps, and I kind of as a forward before we talk about everything that we need to go over. I kind of liked how all of these maps that we're about to go over are really scrappy maps. Map control is extremely important in Overwatch 2, and in a lot of these VODs we go against teams that are not playing the strongest composition, but they're playing their composition very well. And they're fighting for map control with suboptimal picks. And since we have not been challenged on map control as a team enough for us to be prepared for this type of strategy, we kind of get rolled a little bit. And some of these maps we end up winning still, but we're definitely being pushed and challenged as a team. And I really think this is going to be a good opportunity for us to grow and learn. So I'm going to do my best to explain everything. So, going back to the very beginning, this team is playing a spawn hold contest. This is nothing new. This has been done since the beginning of competitive organized Overwatch. Teams will play compositions that like to play up close on maps that usually have long sight lines so they can avoid having sniper duels. There's people who play May compositions on Junkertown and try to spawn camp you on Junkertown. There's people who will play the first point on Route 66 and try to spawn camp on Route 66. There's all sorts of spawn camp strategies, and this one's nothing new. And if you have a team that's spawn camping you, usually what that means is they don't want to have a normal snipers play down from main fight with you. They want to try to scrap with you as much as they can, try to make the fights chaotic, and try to outplay you from that chaos. And the way you're supposed to play against this type of composition is you just kite, take as many angles as you can, spread your guys out, spread yourselves out as much as you can, and then you try to outplay them on an individual level. And it's important to have really good target priority when you're playing against a scrappy team. The enemy team is going to they don't get to decide who peaks. So we can put out our most tanky characters and most hard to kill characters out first, and when they have to overextend their squishy characters, then we can peek and try to punish them. Don't commit hard versus the scrappy team. That's what they want you to do. So an example of that is, as soon as Griffin notices that their monkey is diving in, you don't need to immediately grapple out, but you should have your grapple on ready to go. In fact, most Widowmakers here would either grapple back main or they'd grapple off to this side immediately, because it's just not worth the risk of fighting here. And since we kind of try to play it normally, they just rush onto Griffin, kill him. And it takes us a little bit to figure out how to deal with this. They have so many spawn doors to try to deal with, and this is an excellent play. We force their monkey and the Reaper over here, and we're spreading them out. Look how spread out their team is. They're not playing together, which is what they would like to do if possible. But we're taking advantage of all these doors, and we're trying to spread them out. Their supports are the most important kills in this situation. Actually, it's their DPS, but DPS is the DPS are really hard to kill, especially if they play this right. And whenever their Reaper's in trouble, their Kiriko can just teleport in and Suzu him. So often you're not going to be able to get your picks on the DPS unless you kill the supports first. Now, if our Widowmaker can get a pick on their DPS, then it's a free fight. And it should be a free fight also if we pick their pick their support, but we need to play carefully until their DPS are dead, even if we kill their supports. But if we kill their DPS first, we don't need to play carefully. We can play a lot more aggressively. We're forcing them to spread out all over the place. What we don't want to do is hard commit versus a scrappy team like this. That was a crazy play. I don't even remember seeing that in the first place. Yeah, their Sojourn should never have died there. If they had played it right, Mav wouldn't have gotten that kill, but the commitment works because we got that kill. But if we had not gotten that kill, it's not nearly as good. Keyline was playing this really well. Just throwing Disruptor, getting healed back up, and just playing the corner. This is a great angle take by Griffin. Now, versus a scrappy team, you'll often have one or two players on flanks like this that are going to try to pincer you, and they find a position that's really hard for us to force them out. Especially with our composition, if any one of us tries to go into this stairway and force them out, we just get dove and destroyed. So oftentimes when they have two players like this, you need to have the strongest strategy is just to kill the rest of their team as they show up and just be prepared for the dive at any time. Chad plays this really well, if I recall. So their Kiriko teleports in. As soon as they dive in, we start DPSing them out. Yes. And then they try to wrap around onto our Widowmaker. I don't know if we didn't have immortality there. Oops. No, we didn't have immortality. Okay. Versus a scrappy team that plays like weird angles like that, when you have an opportunity to push forward, we need to push forward hard and try to clean up as many kills as possible. Like once you get one or two picks, then they kind of start to fall apart, and we need to push your advantage. At this moment, this is another like corner that they get to play. We get to have another team fight. Versus a scrappy team, they are often playing compositions that don't do well from distance or from angles, and they like to have quick fights. So it's a kind of weird. I'm pretty sure they're trying to transition over to a different composition because they're playing Monkey and Reaper still, and they're probably trying to just use those ults before they switch into like a more traditional Circuit Royale composition. But while they're in this transitionary phase, we're just going to get a ton of free fights if we play our angles correctly. Meaning taking as wide angles as we can. We don't all need to be playing from main. That's something I'm probably going to be calling out a lot, is when we all are playing kind of grouped together like this, instead of having people taking diverse angles. Speeding up a little bit as we push to clean up. We see their Monkey player not even trying to use Primal, just switching to Sigma, which is the play they should have done earlier. Reaper is kind of annoying to deal with on this point. So this is sort of turning back into like a normal Circuit Royale match where it's about whose DPS get picks on who. And we have the advantage because we have one, we have wall hacks, two, we have a Widowmaker and a Sojourn, whereas they just have a Sojourn. and the Reaper kind of doesn't do anything versus our team because our Sigma can zone them out. The success in this map, on sniper maps in general, is something that a lot of the teams that I'm coaching right now are having trouble with. And it really comes down to sneakiness and picking your windows of opportunity wisely. Versus a team that plays corners well and is playing Sigma, it's very hard to get any picks onto the enemy DPS because the DPS won't be peeking very often, and when they do peek, like 80 to 90% of the time, the Sigma is going to throw a shield up for their DPS so that they can peek safely. And it's going to be really difficult for us to get picks on that. And it's going to be really hard to try to poke them out and clear them out from their corners. It'll take a really long time. So the most successful teams are really good at AFKing on corners and not doing anything and just chilling and waiting for the enemy team to kind of get complacent and then peeking and going for a quick shot. A lot of the top Widowmakers right now are being they're being much less active than they usually are. Instead of constantly peeking, constantly playing, just trying to maximize their uptime, they're trying to play quality over quantity of their peaks. So they're really taking a long time while they're letting their teammates fight for a really long time, letting the enemy Sojourn get complacent and focus on this, like let the Sojourn focus on just trying to farm your Sigma for rail shots and stuff. And then our Widowmaker will find like a cheeky angle like right here or something. Or they will play very slowly, crouch up this entire staircase, and once they're like crouching right here, they charge up a shot, uncrouch, and then look for a shot, and they don't waste their moment. They try to play for small individual moments rather than just trying to constantly be active. In this moment where they had a 6 shield Griffin, you don't need to peek at all. Like, you should be checking with your crouch and playing only for eliminations and letting your team take care of themselves. Good Sigmas are going to shield right there like they did that last fight, and they're not going to drop their shield ever until the fight's done. Really, this whole like point is decided by who gets the better eliminations. And if neither DPS can find any eliminations, usually that falls to the Sigma getting a huge flex, or the Sojourn getting picks with their, what is it called, overclock? Yeah. And Baptiste is also a really strong ultimate to play around. So we end up using our overclock, and Keelan gets 3 kills. That's what a lot of fights are going to look like once we have our ultimates, is one side is going to roll another. In this situation, we probably don't need to trance because literally no one on their team can see us, not even their Sigma. So Ember probably could have just shifted and kept us all up. Yeah, he had shift. So it wasn't necessary for us to trance there, but it's not necessarily a waste. It's not like you had anything else to use it for. Great window. Late trance by their Zen. I don't know if they just got it, but just get this point for free. We get to clean up these kills. Oh, that stings. Speeding up. Now, if the enemy team lets you, you should really be fighting for coast and this angle. These are the angles that we want to play around and see if we can find a pick on this corner. I've seen DPS, when both teams are just playing from this angle, I've seen DPS play very sneaky, like I said earlier. Like the Widowmaker will like grapple from here around so that they don't get scouted from this angle. They'll like grapple across so they don't ever show themselves, and then slowly walk, like crouch walk until they have their grapple back, and then let their team fight a little bit, and then take a peek when no one's looking, take time on their shot and go for a shot. Those are the types of kills that make the big difference, right? And if you don't get your pick, then you can just sort of chill here and see what enemies are gonna do. If they're gonna try to flush you out, you can grapple back. If not, you can just chill here and put a ton of pressure on the enemy team without even peeking, because the enemy team has to play around your one shot, and they have to be super scared, and maybe the enemy team ends up backing up because they're just afraid of you, and then you get free card. And if both teams are fighting over here, you do the opposite. Like as a Widowmaker, you try to play for this angle. Griffin also makes a key mistake here. When you are down players, we were down our Sojourn and our Baptiste, the enemy team has like super crazy spawn advantage on this point. And when the enemy team has spawn advantage, you want to play very, very solidly, very safe when you're down picks. And when both teams are down picks and both teams are regrouping, as Widowmaker, really you want to be completely inactive and pretend as though you're not fighting at all, and see if you can get another pick on, like a spawn camp pick on somebody as they're walking in a straight line. You don't want to take an aggressive high ground like you did here, and it ends up getting you killed. So it takes longer for us to regroup, and then we have to give up a lot of space for it. Whereas before, had instead of grappling up here to try to see if you can get a pick, if you had grappled up to here and just hid, and as the enemy team is pushing up and taking space, you could have peeked and got a shot here, or you could have literally just been hiding and waiting for their Widowmaker to peek here, and you probably would have been able to get a free kill on a Widowmaker if you were hiding. Hiding as Widowmakers is so strong. You get killed here, that's fine, but the rest of our team is just playing main, which is what we kind of have to do. But again, in a perfect world, we would have people playing up for these high grounds and diversifying our angles. And we'd have some people playing main, some people playing this high ground. And then once they back up, we try to take these angles, try to play for main like we did before. And once we clear out top, and once we clear out here, we can push the card up to here. And once we get to here, we can try to play for this high ground control, or our Widowmaker can try to get a sneaky pick from main if it's possible. So we get our picks, we get our space, and in this scenario, when we are up picks, we make a crucial error right here. You want to push as hard as you can while you have mana advantage, obviously. And you want to force resources out of the enemy team. Now that can either be forcing them to use all of their cooldowns just to stay alive, or it can be getting kills in case they've already used their cooldowns, or it can be forcing ults. So as we're pushing in here, they overclock and they kitsune. And that's everything you could ever want. That's just perfect. And if I was pushing in on 3 people while they're respawning and they're forced to use 2 ults while they only have 3 people alive, that should be a free fight. You should be thinking, okay, now we get to completely regroup, take high ground. Yes, this is what you want to do. You want to take high ground, and we get to take this because we have ult advantage now. Whereas instead, we push our advantage really hard here. I mean, we don't push it really hard, but we fight here, and we invest our own ultimates here when we should not be. And it ends up getting us killed, which is really sad because J-Star was 92 to ult, when it obviously wouldn't have mattered either because Keelam gets headshot. But playing main from here is so not good to do unless we have unless they have no ults and we have man advantage. But they had ults, and even though we had man advantage, the ults are enough to get kills. And once we lose our tank and our DPS, then we're just done. When instead, if we were even gonna just stay main, we could have stayed main if we really wanted to, when it's not as good, but we could have stayed main. And had we just sort of waited, forced their ults out, and then just sort of waited for us to build our ultimates, had we all been properly communicating that we have ultimates coming up soon. Like J-Star says that he has trance at 93%. Then we could just play slow, wait for him to build up the last part of his trance, and then we can play aggressively here. We could even just like trance in, even though it's risky versus the Widowmaker. But I would really recommend trying to take top on this point. It's not the end of the world. We do still force ults out of them, and we have a couple ults coming up. Not as many as we'd like to have, but now we have to refight for this. They probably could be playing more aggressively here. They're giving up a lot of space, and so we take it. Then they wrap around to meet us. We kind of have this fight here with our Widowmaker being main, like I was talking about earlier. This is well played. This is what a lot of fights on this point are going to be like. And like every other part in this map, it comes down to eliminations. And if we can't get any eliminations with like in the neutral, which is going to be really difficult actually on this point, we just have to rely on ultimate. So really in this scenario, we can just be farming our ultimates. We don't need to peek aggressively. Like J-Star kind of looks for a risky pick on their Widowmaker and gets stoned. It's not what you want to see. If I recall here, Mav, yeah. Since we're down our... How did we lose our Sojourn there? That stinks. Couldn't get back up. And yeah, now Keylime's doomed. We shouldn't have dropped. We should have cleared out this high ground. We want everyone to play on this high ground, and maybe like our either our Widowmaker pushes or our Sig drops. Or like our Sig drops a shield and then drops on the point. Really hard to win this fight though. I really wish that I could be recording this with other people so I could be answering questions here, because I'm not sure if I went over everything that we needed to. But the key point is going to be just playing more sneaky, playing for eliminations really hard, playing for them really hard in the neutral, meaning you are not active in the neutral nearly as much as you would normally be. You're not going to be like a Soldier 76 player just holding down left click the entire game, just trying to get as much damage as possible. You're really going to be playing for a very low damage game where you're trying to be as sneaky as possible and find eliminations and win fights with like as little damage as possible, really. Like, obviously you want to be doing as much damage as you can. I'm not saying that you don't force yourself to not do damage, but as Widowmaker especially, like you really want to be playing sneaky. There's just so much carry potential here. Now here we get cheesed really hard. We get cheesed harder than I've ever seen us get cheesed, and that is completely fine. This is a huge learning experience for us. So let's talk about it a little bit. I guess we can keep it plain. The enemy team decides to go for a really wacky play where they're playing Zarya. First off, if you see an enemy Zarya and you're playing on Circuit Royale, like with Widowmaker comp, if they're playing a mirror comp to us, except they have a Zarya and we have a Sig, then we should have such a crazy major advantage. And what you need to do is take advantage of the fact that we have a shield and they do not. So we see Widowmaker, we see a Zen, we see a Zarya. We don't see their goofy Junkrat play. And I think their Junkrat messes it up here. They wanted to go in right now, but they mess it up. I don't know if we heard that. We should have heard it. But if we didn't hear it, and we're not pressing tab, we're not going to be prepared for the Junkrat flank. But scratch that. We're not talking about that yet. If we have a Widowmaker and they have a Widowmaker, and we have a Sig and they have a Zarya, we should be playing our Widowmaker in an aggressive position, taking advantage of our Sig shield. And we should be outplaying them in the neutral every single time. Shield is such a broken ability on this map when we have a Widowmaker and they do not have a shield. So we should just be literally playing our Widowmaker right next to our Sigma. We don't need to diversify our angles versus a team that has no shield. Now we should be pressing tab and seeing what they play. And if we see a Junkrat on this map, I understand if you guys were not aware that Junkrat can go over here, and if you weren't prepared for it, you're just going to get destroyed by it. But if you ever see a wacky pick like a Pharah, a Junkrat, or even a Bastion, I'm pretty sure Bastion can rocket jump from right here, like over or something. Like I've seen a clip of Frogger or Bastion main doing some crazy Bastion flank. Just be aware of the possibility of this. Now, it makes sense that we get caught off guard by it. This is only single shield. If we were playing double shield, like if it was Overwatch 1 here, we could have our Orisa sitting here. I know Sigma would be able to play like this angle or something and shield up, and then have his eat ready for anyone who's doing some crazy flank. Teams would probably play a D.Va here for that reason. But since we only have one tank, we get the pick on their Widowmaker, and they just wait for their Widowmaker to come back, and their Junkrat gets into position. Goes on their flank. Almost one-shots J-Star. Pretty sure they should have one-shotted him. I think they messed up. We get a huge immortality on him, and they start to scrap with us. Whoever charged the Zarya, I'm pretty sure it was J-Star, shame on you. You should not be shooting versus this team composition. Like, you should literally be doing nothing. AFK would be better than charging their Zarya. But when their Zarya walks up, they get to pincer us and force us out, and Keyline gets body shot by the Widowmaker and body shot by the Junkrat at the same time, and just absolutely gets deleted. Or maybe it's shot by the Zen, I don't know. But as soon as he walks out of this corridor, he gets deleted. This is a really big mistake, but it's not really much you could have done because there's a Zarya chasing you. You really have to try to get out, I guess. But they just out-scrap us here. We make positional errors, and we lose our basically our whole team. The Zarya gets to clean up everything for free because they're higher charged. Had we not charged her at all, then yeah. But if you ever see a Zarya, expect her to be bubbling like a flanker or something. So it's kind of hard not to charge the Zarya when the junk drops on you, and then the Zarya gets to walk up here and try to clear everything out. If the Zarya gets charged off of bubbling a flanking DPS, that's okay. It's okay to shoot those bubbles, but don't shoot the Zarya bubbles where she's just bubbling main foam in this corner, because that's huge. That's really sad that we lose that. Going over that again, and just so we can see it from everything that happened. Okay. Junker goes over. They bubble the Junkrat, makes it hard to kill. In this scenario, we should really be trying to kill their Mercy. We get their Mercy, we get those picks, and we need to restabilize. So Mav should drop back. Mav overstays for just a second, and that's enough for the Zarya to walk in on him. And then Griffin dies to the peeking Zen, I guess. Stinks, but first point's not over. We still have high ground control. We still have a Sigma, they don't have a shield. We can still outplay them here. Now, we make a mistake of not shielding on the high ground. Really, we drop 10 years too early here. We don't need to be playing this close corner versus Zarya. In fact, we shouldn't be dropping at all. We should have like all 5 people playing this angle and shielding forward. And then when Mav needs to drop for a contest, like I would have him just drop and then hold shift here and just allow him to get lasered by the Zarya, and like use his health pool as a resource there, and see if Chad can maybe pocket him from this angle or something. Maybe drop an immortality field for him so he can contest longer. But to keep your shield up on high ground as long as possible for our DPS. Our DPS should be able to zone out their entire team. But instead we drop here, which is not what we want to do versus a Zarya composition. And their Tracer goes on a crazy flank all the way around. And had we all been playing together, we would have been able to see that coming. I don't know why we didn't see it coming before either, because the Tracer went like into this flank and no one called it, I guess. Griffin got caught off guard. J-Star does end up killing the Tracer though, that's really clutch. But we're playing close range versus Zarya. It's just not necessary. Zarya wins like in these scenarios. Zarya is not a trash character because she has low damage or anything. She's a trash character because you can kite her, and we don't need to play like in her face. Yeah, we should just all be playing high ground. We just get poked out way too easily when they have a Widowmaker and we don't. We play that really badly. We didn't need to drop. We need to be abusing like positional advantage versus these guys. In this scenario, Griffin, when you're already down players, as Widowmaker, the point I would like to, the tip I'd like to give to you is be a AFK and allow the enemy team to push W without thinking, and then they'll start walking in straight lines. Like just wait a couple seconds and wait for Maverick to like start backing up because their team's walking in, and then we can just flank them from behind and shoot them. Sorry about that. And like just peeking main and being super active here is not what you need to do. Like you can just chill, wait for their Zen to like do a predictable strafe. Like if you didn't know here, you might have been able to pop them right there and then grapple out. We get them, they overextend, we clean them up. Like we play well for a second there, and then we're able to push in. And now they all like wisely go underneath and try to flank us from here, so they don't have to play us from main. This is really smart by the enemy team. They're trying to make a scrap. I don't know, I guess they're expecting this flank. I don't know how they saw this coming. Yeah, I guess that's really annoying. I think you're taking a pretty good angle here, Griffin, but they just caught you out. In this scenario, it's not completely necessary to get a pick because they're already regrouping, and it's not the highest value time to get a kill because their Zen is still so far away they can't have the fight. So in this scenario, I think that I wouldn't really be peeking unless I was really sure that their Widowmaker didn't know where I was, or I knew their Widowmaker was looking somewhere else, or if I had Mav next to me like shielding me. Those would be the two scenarios. This is just higher risk than is necessary, especially when we don't have a Mercy. If we had a Mercy, you can peek like this all day. But what you kind of want is for Keyline to kind of shoot them like through like the rafters if possible, or Mav to shoot him from the side, and for him to like you want to hear the Widowmaker shoot before you peek. And once you hear them shoot, then that means like you could charge up a shot, wait for the Widowmaker to shoot, and then you can peek because the Widowmaker hasn't charged their next shot yet, so it's a completely safe shot. And usually if they're shooting something other than you, then they're not expecting you from that angle. So gotta be more sneaky. I'm sorry for also kind of singling you out there, Griffin, but like you just have so much carry potential on this map, so it's important for me to say. We use ultimates, they trans. We end up cleaning up with the pick that we got from Overclock, lets us snowball the fight. Okay, now we have high ground advantage, and their Zarya ends up peeking. We have like extreme man advantage, so in this scenario we can actually just all 5 of us push, or just the 4 minus the Widowmaker. Just everyone just drop onto this Zarya and delete her. We end up getting the Mercy. I mean, I'm not being prepared to do that. Okay, so we've used our Immortality Field, we've used some of our tanking cooldowns. Their Widowmaker is still alive. Our Widowmaker is coming back from spawn, and we have our Sojourn coming back from spawn as well. We need to play really safely here. we need to be playing to build our ultimates, and we want to stay as spread out as possible. I think that we tend to kind of group together and play from the same angles when we're kind of scared, and we really need to not do that. Huge shot by Griffin, getting that Tracer. They have wall hacks and we have a pick, so really we don't need to do anything. We just need to not feed ult charge, we need to not get picked, and we can just build our ults. Mav can take damage on this corner, doesn't need to have his shield up, he can be charging his shield, and Chad can build his ult off of Mav. We really don't need to peek there. That's like really sad that we lose that, but we already would have like won that fight for free had we not lost our Widowmaker. But now that we lost our Widowmaker, we're gonna get kind of rolled over. This was really good play by Chad, killing their Zarya with window and using Immortality Field there, staying alive with like 2 health. But it was kind of funny how they Valked, bubbled the Mercy to res, and then the Tracer kills our Zen, and then we just delete the Tracer. So they used Valk, bubble, and res just to kill our Zen, and then we ended up just resetting back to neutral. So even though we misplayed a little bit, we made some clutch plays and flanked it back. In this scenario again, like they're playing Bastion now instead of Tracer. This is just so free for us. We just don't need to do anything. We can just play safe, play slowly, and just kind of farm our ultimates. And Griffin can play safely and passively and look for picks when they show up. Nav is taking more damage than he needs to. Their Widowmaker takes a really good flank and catches us off guard. I don't know where Griffin is. Oh. I don't like this angle. I don't know. Like, I feel like you should always be playing on the left side, but you should be hiding from the left side and looking for an opportune time to peek. You can play back here a lot safer now that they don't have Tracer. This would have been like a really good place to hide, and if they kill J-Star, they're not going to be expecting you to be right here, and you can charge up a shot and then peek and kill him real quick. I think that playing on this angle really gives their Widowmaker an angle to shoot at your team without having to deal with you. And they get a big grab on Mav while we don't have our trance. Really sad. I don't know if J-Star could have played that corner better when he has... I guess that when you're close to trance and we know that they have Grav coming soon, then we need to play extra safe with our Zen. Or just extra safe in general. Not peeking the Widowmaker at all, or always being really afraid when you don't see the Widowmaker, expecting her to flank. We're playing these high grounds almost like picture perfectly. We probably could even be taking this high ground from them, but you know, it's kind of weird that they're playing Ana. We're playing all these high grounds really well. We don't need to be giving up this much space. Like I said, we can be taking more space from them because they're playing Bastion. Versus like a Sojourn and a Widowmaker, I would understand just playing here, but I personally would just be playing Sig right here, or Sig right here and like their Widowmaker right here. Well, he plays Sojourn and our supports up here. I'm just playing here, we should just win, even though we have to give up space. What does Mount drop? Yeah, I get caught out. And now they switch to like Genji, which I didn't see that swap. I don't remember when they did that. I guess it was just now. But this team likes to play bad characters. They like to play bad characters that are easy to play and are way easier to play into us than what we're playing is versus them. We're going to have a lot of situations versus like cheesy teams like this where like if we hit our shots, we just get free wins. But if we don't, and they're playing sneaky enough and we're not expecting them, they're going to catch us off guard and get a free win off of us. Going to kind of skill check us a bit. So the fight is when they're playing Monkey Genji, and they're able to get in, like they're able to close the distance this far and get up to right here and have their Monkey like jump in from here. It's oftentimes that we're not going to be winning those fights. Really what we want to be doing is we want to be taking as much space on this part of the point and holding them from here. And if we end up losing this fight and backing up, having to back up the way we did, we really need to be holding these high grounds and not be playing back right here, because this is just way too diveable. And we really need to be poking down their Genji and their Monkey before they're able to dive onto us and play for eliminations. Here for contest, I would probably like switch off the Widowmaker. I would have switched off the Widowmaker and gone Reaper or something, just so we can play on point. But really, they scrapped us. They played flanks, and they got us off guard. That's what really came down to. And we could have played way sneakier. We could have played for eliminations way harder, and we didn't need to be active the whole time that we were. We played too predictably. So playing sneaky, playing for eliminations is definitely the way to go. Now, this is another cheesy map. We get to go over this a little faster than the last one. So, they're playing Genji on defense, and this is kind of, how to say, in Rialto, there's a lot of close, like, there's a lot of, like, flanks like this for people who are playing characters like Junkrat or Genji, who are, there's a lot of open flanks, basically. So they can play flankers, people who like to play on flanks and have kind of burst damage to burst us down. They can do a lot of that on these types of maps. This is one of the better Genji maps in the game. Probably one of the best, actually. Versus a Ramatra. Ramatra likes to brawl a lot more than Sigma does. So, and he has a pretty good shield as well. So I would say that our team comp, since we're playing our Sojourn Widow and our Bap Zen, we should really be just poking them and playing sneaky like we did before. We can be taking angles here. I like the fact that J-Star was looking to go around here. I like where Keylime's playing. We are aware of their Genji. I'm pretty sure their Genji gets a nice deflect. Yeah. So we kind of just need to play for our own kills. That's what we're doing. We force their Ramatra down, which allows us to almost like clean out the rest of their team. We kill their Genji, which is great. And part of taking space on this map is taking this space from them as well. Bad teams in your ranked games, I'm sure that you just get to push forward and have no worries. But we should really have someone be like playing up here. I've seen a lot of Sigma players do this, and they just clear out this while their team clears main. So this would be a really good play for Mav, clearing out the Sojourn from the side ground. We need to be thinking a lot more about flanks than we usually do. We end up getting the kill on them. It was a good shot by Griffin. I like where Keyline is playing. We're taking this high ground from them. We should be having way more people play on that. I would have Chad jump up there. Griffin's playing for main, which is fine. We have that man advantage. Had we had like high ground advantage as well, we could have poked down their supports as they were walking in. Now we kind of need to have a bit of a brawly fight with Ramatra here, and as we'll see later, brawling with Ramatra is not good, not strong for our team. Sigma doesn't like to really play up close with a Ramatra if he can avoid it, but we got away with it there because we had man advantage. Moving right along. We play for this high ground, and we end up not being able to really deal with this window right here at all. This is really hard to push through. This team ends up playing defense exceedingly well, and they just hard hold this corner. And this is one of the strongest defense points in all of Overwatch, just right here. This is so strong, so hard to push through, and really, we should really be like trying to look for like flank picks. I'll see like Widowmakers like coming all the way around and seeing if they can poke out, but unfortunately, since they have Genji, that's really difficult because Genji can just dash onto you. We really need to have Peel. It's really difficult to do anything on this map, and this is just so defense favored. So what I've mostly seen success in is teams using just ultimates to get through. So if we could have like a flux where we just flux the corner and get everyone in the air and have our Baptiste like windowing and trying to clear them out, that would be a play we could do. We could have like a trance push where we just trance through. It's gonna be really hard. I've seen teams like switch off the snipers here because there's not like the best angles here, and maybe play like a Reaper and a Mei and just try to punch your way through. Ramatra is really strong on the attacking here because you can use Ramatra ult to push through this high ground and take this space. Probably the best ult in the game right now for doing that. And we kind of just get held really hard here. It just pushes through when we have people on cart, so they take the 5v like 3 or the 5v4. We waste our ultimates when people are dead. It's not good. We end up getting back and we try to have a scrappy fight, but their team comp is just way scrappier than ours. It doesn't matter, like as long as they're trading kills, like they're winning because they have better respawn advantage. We end up having like the fight go into our way really well. We scrap with them. That's probably the best scrap I've seen us do, and they have Blade, so they're able to, I'm pretty sure they use Blade to take this back, and they have trans. Yeah, so that Blade got a ton of value even though he didn't go in because it forced us to play back, and they're able to retake the high ground. And once we get the high ground taken from us, it's just kind of over. Really annoying. Going back to this, what we really should have done is could we have taken this high ground longer? Let's see here. Yeah, I think that before we start the fight, we want to have basically everyone on this high ground. And I would say our BAP should be the one pushing cart so that he can just jump back up onto the high ground when it's useful. Or we can have our BAP trying to just watch this left angle and have everyone else on high ground. And we end up dropping before they even blade. We should have been really fighting tooth and nail to keep this high ground. And if they were going to blade us, then we can just trance and hold here and try to kill their Sojourn. Because their blade shouldn't be doing anything. Since we give up the high ground, we kind of get wrecked. This little spot right here just means such a big difference versus good teams. They knew how to take it really well. So yeah, they're gonna hold it. We have wall hacks, but it doesn't really matter. Like, they just get to brawl. They ult us, but since it's such a strong position, they still out-scrap us. There's really no play that we can make. Like this flex, like, is the only thing that was able to do any damage here because any other person that peaked got dove onto by the Genji and the Lucio and the Kiriko. Huge kill on their Sojourn, but they get to use ultimates that they hadn't used yet. They get to blade us. And as long as they're trading kills, they have the advantage because they have the crazy respawn advantage, and they can just retake this high ground. We switched to monkey, which is okay. Tracer can also be really good. We get a huge pick on their sojourn, and they drop off of the high ground. So we should be looking to take that space. I didn't get to see. I wasn't looking at what J-Star did. Yeah, I think J-Star was just desperate for a play there. And now they have Ramatra ult during last fight, and we have nothing to deal with it. Got rid of a chat. Yeah, kind of the whole thing that we need to do. If we're gonna ever win that point, the only way that we're going to win is if we get like huge picks early on in the fight and we're able to clean up the rest of them. And even if they lost 2 picks, they were able to use ultimates and get counter picks and swing the fight back into their favor because they have the respawn advantage. Because this chokehold is so brutal to push through. Their blade, their Ramatra ults are able to hold that so well. So playing super tanky characters that can punch their way through with their ultimates makes a huge difference. I think Ramatra is just like the strongest one that comes to mind. And being able to play like right next to him, I've seen those like May Reaper comps. I've even seen like Symmetra comps where you like teleport across so that you can bypass this like choke without having to deal with this high ground, and then try to play like on this side and try to negate their high ground advantage by playing around the boxes and the pillars. Something you could also do. You have to play sneaky versus teams that hold map control so well. So we're playing a dive defense, and we lose Chad immediately due to a Widowmaker. That's fine. But what we really want to be doing is we want to be taking advantage of these small like flanks. We want I think that almost always we should have either Griffin or Maverick playing here if we're gonna play like Tracer and Winston, and we can be diving these high grounds. There's not really any peel that they can do. They can Kiriko TP and Suzu, but if we have bubble right here, then our monkey is going to be able to cleave onto a ton of people, and like our Lucio and our Tracer can just come and dive and we'll win that fight. We need to be playing way more aggressively, and when we lose our Kiriko, we kind of start getting poked out, and whoops, we back up when we should not. The dive composition is kind of like we can use our mobility really well to avoid fights and stay active. So had we committed to this corner, we really could have outplayed the Genji here. We could have stayed here. We could have amped heals if we had it. Did we? Yeah, we definitely could have amped heals here and traded with this Genji and forced him out. Maybe even forced his dash, and we might have been able to clean up that kill. That would have been really cool, but instead we give up space. We end up getting the kill on the Genji, but we give up a ton of space for it. And honestly, Griffin should be far deep behind them at this point. And there's just so much, there's so many flanks that we could be controlling right here and being behind the enemy team, and instead we're all playing main. So this is kind of like a nightmare situation. Griffin kind of has no play that he can make. Like, the best he could probably do is blink all the way around and then try to like take this high ground again, but at that point the pillar's probably going to be right here. Mav is probably going to want to back up here, take the mega and jump onto here. We might have someone peek main for Chad, but instead we're just going to play main. Like we drop main versus the Widowmaker and Mav dies, so it's like, okay, now we're just hopeless. We didn't take advantage of anything on this map that makes dive strong. Now dive versus a Kiriko is going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult to do. So I don't blame you for not playing it perfectly. Really, like the key to playing, we're just going to lose this because we're brawling versus the Ramatra as dive. We didn't really have any high ground control. But what you want to be doing is you want to have your tracer be the one harassing the enemy Kiriko and trying to force either Swift Step or Suzu. And once we've forced one of those two abilities, then we can hard dive onto the Kiriko. But if we hard commit our monkey jump onto a Kiriko before they've teleported, they just teleport out and then our monkey's sitting in no man's land, which is not what you want ever. So the Tracer and sometimes the Lucio and sometimes the Kiriko are able to flank, and they're more mobile than our monkey is. Like they can take back their mobility immediately, and we can force not ultimates cooldowns. And then once we force cooldowns, then we can switch back to like the normal dive play style where you just hard dive and go for kills. We're playing this corner well. We get a good kill on their Sojourn, good pick. And then we're able to drop and clean up this fight. I think it's really important we make a mistake later here, where what we really need to be doing is holding this corner and controlling these flanks, and the enemies won't be able to do anything until they have ultimates. And then we use our ultimates, key ultimates being Beat and Primal, to sustain us through like those fights. So we use our Kitsune to provoke a fight, and then they use their Kitsune, they use their Ramatra ult, and they use their blade. Perfect opportunity to use our blade, our beat, perfectly timed beat, and then we can drop back, kill their Genji, and we can use our primal to take care of their backline while we stabilize the fight. We use our ultimates perfectly there. So now we're in cleanup mode and build ultimates mode. We're like 30 to our next beat already, 30 to our next primal already. That's amazing. We can really just play this corner and we can just tase their rotations, like play really safe. J-Star can like play corners either with the team or play low and just be poking the enemy team for ultimate here. I really like how we just soft jump and hold this space. That's really what we want to do. Tasing this Genji would have been free. We didn't need to drop here, but since we're overclocking, it's okay. Now we're in cleanup. We can just literally just clean up. Unfortunately, our beat is falling behind the Ramatra ult, which is not what you want to see. We really want J-Star to start pushing up a little bit and poking for his ultimate a little bit, slightly more aggressively, not actually going and red at Lucioing, but we want everyone to be taking a little bit of poke damage so that we can help build up his ultimate. Betas is so important here. We lose our Lucio, which is like worst thing that could happen. Lucio is like the last person you want picked here. We end up having to primal just to try to stabilize the fight, and we're not able to beat. And because we're not able to beat in time, I'm pretty sure J-Star died at like 92%. We end up losing because of that. And then they have their Ramatra ult. We end up winning this fight, I think. We end up out-scrapping them. So we end up winning despite everything with our spawn advantage. But we ended up losing the point, technically. So in a tournament match, we would have lost. Unlucky. I'm gonna quickly. That's basically the main things I wanted to go over. Really, I kind of just went over like our mistakes, unfortunately, and I didn't really get to go over as much as I wanted to. I'm actually, now I'm looking at this, I don't really have time to go over this map, which is really instructive as well. But I can go over this later, either tonight or tomorrow, and upload this one later. But for now, I'm just going to end this recording and upload what I've done already. Wait a minute, this is not the right. This is one of my games. That's funny. It's a different. I meant to do this Route 66, not the one that I played. But either way, this one is really instructive. So I will do that one soon. But those last two maps, I hope they were instructive enough. And if I'm able to do it in a bit, then it'll be no big deal. But that's it for this video.